Hariri. From Maqaamat Tasawwuf to Maqaamat Hariri. Al-Maqamatu Sabi'atu al-Barqa'idiyatu. Seventh Maqama, Barqa'idiyah. Barqa'id is the name of a town in Iraq. Between it and Mosul is about 20 farsakh. One farsakh is 3 miles, so 20 farsakh will be 20 times 3 is 60. So 60 miles from Mosul. Mosul, you must have heard of in the news, Mosul in Iraq. So it is in Iraq, close to that. This maqama happened there. Khulasa of the maqama is that Haris ibn Hammam spent the month of Ramadan in Barqa'id, and he was about to travel thousands, hundreds of thousands of people there. Haris ibn Hammam saw an old man with an old woman who was drugged by an old woman, and he took out from his bag a number of papers, and on there was some poetry written nicely and illuminated with various colored inks. And the old woman went around the people and showed them the poetry. And then after a while, she went back to get some gifts and the papers back. But nobody was giving her anything. Hadith ibn Hammam happened to take one of those papers as well, and he read it and he found the poetry to be really nice. When that old woman came back to him to take the paper, he attached with it 1 dinar gold coin, and he said, "You can have it if you tell me who the person, the old man, is." And she quickly just said that he is from the native land of Saruj, and he is the one who composed this poetry. Haris ibn Hammam guessed that it must be Abu Zayd. And he was really concerned that Abu Zayd had become blind and he was being led by an old woman. When the Eid Salah finished, Haris ibn Hammam rushed towards him and he found him to be Abu Zayd. And he invited to his house. He went to his house. As soon as they went inside the house, he asked, "Anybody else here?" And he said, "No one besides the old woman with you." So Haris opened up his eyes. He wasn't blind. Abu Zayd Saruji opened his eyes. He wasn't blind. Haris said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, it's a trick, and it's to extract money from people." So Haris prepared some meal for him, and he enjoyed that meal. And then he said, "Get me some, water and soap and toothpick and washing myself and cleaning my mouth and everything." So Haris went, and as he was preparing that, Abu Zayd Saruji ran off. When he came back, there was no one to be seen because he wanted to escape and avoid a lecture on his hypocrisy, so he ran off. This is Al-Maqamatu Sabi'atu Al-Barqa'idiyatu. चलिए हकल हारिस इब्न हम्माम قال أزمعت الشخوص من برقعيد وقد شمت برقعيد. I had determined of journeying from Barqa'id whilst I had noted the signs of Eid. I had seen the lightning flash of Eid. فكرهت الرحلة عن تلك المدينة أو أشهد بها يوم الزينة. So I disliked setting forth from the city until I had witnessed there the day of adornment and zenith and beauty. فلما أظل بفرضه ونفله وأجلب بخيله ورجله. So when the day came with its horsemen, uh, the day came with its farz and its nafal, and it brought up and pulled its horsemen and footmen. اتبعت السنة في لبس الجديد. I followed the sunnah in wearing new clothes. وبرزت مع من برز للتعييد. And I went out with those who emerged for celebrating the Eid festival. وحين التأم جمع المصلى وانتظم وأخذ الزحام بالقدم. And when the congregation of the Musalla, the Eid Salat place, Eidgah, was gathered and it was ranged in arrows, in rows, it was arranged in rows, and the crowding took hold of man's breath. طلع شيخ في شملتين محجوب المقلتين. There appeared an old man in a pair of cloak, and his eyes were closed. बाद में पढ़ना आगे. Haris ibn Hammam says, Azma'tu shukhusa. Azma'a yuzmi'u izma'an is from Azama ya'zimu azman. Azama was toppled and turned around to Zama'a. And from Zama'a became Azma'a. To Azma'tu, I resolved, I determined. Ash-shukhus, shakhasa yashkhusu, shukhusan means to travel. I determined to travel and journey from Barqa Eid. وقد شمت برق عيد. وقد شمت شام البرق. شيما means نظر إليه. أين يتجه, where it's directed and where it's going to fall. And barq means bijli, lightning, flash. Eid is called Eid, the day of festival, because it returns twice a year. The word is from Ada Yaudu Audan, which means to return. And the word was Ivudun with waw. But waw maqabal maksur is thaqil on the tongue, so they changed waw to ya. So Ivudun became Eidun, festival, Eid. I had seen the flashes of Eid, meaning preparations, everybody getting ready, wearing nice clothes, maybe some decorations, and the huzz and buzz of Eid. فكرهت الرحلة عن تلك المدينة. كره يكره كراهة كراهية to dislike. رحلة ارتحال سفر. I dislike setting forth from that city. أو أشهد بها يوم الزينة. أو is بمعنى إلا أن, unless I was to witness and be present in the city on the day of zinat and beauty. أو بمعنى إلا أن شهيد يشهد شهودا حاضري देना, to be present. فلما أظل بفرضه ونفله. أظل يظل إظلالا means أقبل. When the day approached and it came, which is farz and its nafl. What is farz on the day of Eid? Either sadqe fitr, which is farz on a mustati, and nafal is salatul Eid. Or number two, farz could mean the fajr salah, and nafal could mean Eid salah. Eid salah, according to Imam Shafi'i, is nafal. According to Imam Abu Hanifa, is wajib. وأجلب بخيله ورجله. Ajlaba, jalaba yajlubu jalban, to drag to pull, and he dragged along and pulled along and brought up khaylihi wa rajlihi. Khaylun means cavalry, rajlun means infantry. Is cavalry and its footmen, horsemen and footmen. Meaning, in those days they used to pray Eid on the outside, like in a football field, and this would be outside the town, city. So people would have to walk it to there or ride it on a horse or a mule or a donkey. So it brought out its horsemen and its footmen. Today as well, people come in cars, other people come walking. Ittaba'tu sunnah, I followed the sunnah, fi lubsil jadid, of wearing new clothes. So uh, I wore some new clothes. وبرزت مع من برز للتعييد. I برز يبرز بروزا, to approach, to appear, to zahir hona, to emerge. And I went out with those who came out for ta'eed. Ta'eed, ayyada yu'ayyidu ta'eedan means Eid manana. Eid manane ke liye, to celebrate the Eid. وحين التأم جمع المصلى. التأم يلتئم التئاما means to gather. جمع means مجمع, بير, congregation. Al-Musalla, Eidgah. When the congregation of the Eidgah was gathered, and wantazama, and it was ranged. Intazama means pirona, to put in row and put in line. So they all formed their rows and sat in the rows and saf. وأخذ الزحام بالقدم, and the crowding was holding on to man's breath. Akhaza, to seize, and ziham means ijdiham. Zahama yazhumu zahman means to overcrowd, and kadam means the place where we breathe from, meaning it was choking everyone. There was so huge crowd that people were getting choked. So the overcrowding was grabbing the breath of people. طلع شيخ في شملتين. طلع يطلع طلوعا, نمودار هنا, to appear. An old man appeared في شملتين. شملتين tasniya of شملة. شملة means चौड़ी चादर. किसा उन वास्या, जमा शमलातुन, तो दो चौड़ी चादरों में, in two wide cloaks. महजूबुल मुकलतैनी, हजब यहजुबु के माना हिजाब पहनाना, तो महजूब means covered, and मुकलतैन तस्निया of मुकला, it means pupil, आँख की पुतली, जिसकी आँख की दोनों पुतलियाँ बंद हैं. वक़द इअतज़द शिबह मिखलाती वस्तक़ाद लिअजूज़ कस्सिअलाती. And he bore on his arm something like a horse bag, and he had for a guide an old woman like a goblin. इअतज़द के माना बाजू में लेना, to take on your shoulder, on your arm. Shibhun, jama ashbah, meaning mithlun, something like. Mikhlat, like a horse bag. Mikhlat, asal mein, it's a bag in which some chana and food is placed, and then it's hung into the neck of a horse, so the horse can eat from there. So he had in his on his shoulders hanging something like that horse bag. Wastaqada, qada yaqudu qiyadatan means uh, uh, to lead, and istaqada means to make yourself tabi' and take someone as your guide. He had taken for a guide ajuz, an old woman, kasalati, who was like a bhutni. Si'lat means bhutni, who is very old, and uh, is her hair are disheveled, and her cheeks have gone in, So she looks like a bhutni. यहाँ तर्जमा किया है goblin. فوقف وقفة متهافت وحيا تحية خافت. He stopped like the stopping of one who is tottering to sink, and he greeted people with the greeting of someone whose voice is feeble. وقف يقف وقوفا, to stop, to stand. وقفة is منصوب بنزل الخافز كوقفتي. And متهافت, تهافت يتهافت تهافتا, means تساقط يتساقط تساقطا, to fall. Someone who's going to fall over barely manages to control himself. So he stood and stopped like the stopping of one who is tottering to sink, and who he greeted, Hayya yuhayyi tahiyatan, salam karna. Tahiyyata, again, kaf mazuf, ka tahiyyati, misla tahiyyati, like the greeting of one whose voice is feeble, low voice. But assalamu alaikum, hi alaikum, you people. He is like the person who has a low voice. ولما فرغ من دعائه أجال خمسه في وعائه. And when he completed his dua prayer, he circled his 5 fingers in his container. Faragha yafrugu faragan, to finish, farig ho jana, meaning his dua of greeting people. Ajala yujiru ijalatan, gumana, to circulate, circle. Khamsahu, meaning 5 fingers, his hand. Fi wi'aihi, wi'a, jama aw'iyatun, container, meaning that horse bag which he was carrying. فأبرز منه رقاعا قد كتبن بألوان الأصباغ. And he brought forth some scraps of paper that had been written on with various colors of dyes in free time of leisure. Abraza yubrizu, to produce, to bring out. So he brought out riqa'an, plural of ruq'atun, meaning scraps of paper, chittiya, some chittis. قد كتبنا بألوان الأصباغ, which had been written with various colors of dyes. Alwan, plural of lawnun. Asbagh, plural of sibghun. Sabagha yasbughu, sibghan means to rung, to color. So sibghun means color, and alwanul asbagh, various colored dyes. So dyes of various colors. Fi awanil faragh, awanun jama awinatun, like zamanun jama azminatun, time, and faragh means leisure time, free time. In his free time, yet they had been written. فناولهن عجوزه الهيزبون وأمرها بأن تتوسم الزبون. And he gave them to his beldame, to his old beldame. उस खूसट बुड्ढी को पकड़ा दिए. And he instructed her to detect each simpleton, simple one. Navala yunavilu, pakadana, to give in the hand of someone. Ajuz, kusat buddhi. Al hayzabun, kusat makkar. To us makkar budi ko, the old beldame. And he told her to detect and search for and look for every zaboon. Zaboon means jiski akkal kam ho, kam akal, nadan, simpleton, simple person, because simple people are beguiled quickly and they give money. होशियार लोग नहीं देते हैं पैसे. So he told her to detect, tabassama ya tabassamu, ताड़ना, ध्यान से देखना, ये ध्यान से देखे और तलाश करे and detect the one who looks simple and sada. فمن آنست ندى يديه ألقت ورقة منهن لديه. So whenever she perceived of any that his hand was moist in bounty, she cast one of the papers before him. Anasa Yunisu Inasan Mahsus Karna, to perceive. When she perceived the moisture of someone's hands, Nada means moisture, meaning his hands being wet with lots of money, who's rich. The moisture of one's hands, then she should throw one paper in front of him. Al-Qayulqi, throw one paper to him so he can read it and he can give us money. فَأَتَاحَ لِيَ الْقَدْرُ الْمَعْتُوبُ رُقْعَةً فِيهَا مَكْتُوبٌ. So the fate which is तकदीर जिस पर इताब किया जाता है, यहाँ तर्जुमा किया cursed, कर्स सही नहीं है, scolded, the fate which is scolded, allotted to me one chitti, one old paper on which it was written. हो गया अताह युतीहु इताहतन, मुयस्सर करना. तकदीर ने जो इताब की ज़दा है ये कहा. बस टाइम पूरा हो गया. शुरू से कर दूं जल्दी जल्दी. बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम. Haris ibn Hammam says, I determined to travel from Balqa'id, but I had seen the lightning flash of Eid, so I disliked traveling from that city until I was present in there for the day of zinat and beauty. So when the day did approach with his farz and nafal, and dragged forth and brought forth its horsemen and footmen, I followed the sunnah in wearing new clothes, and I emerged with those who emerged for celebrating the Eid. And when the congregation of the Eidgah had gathered and formed rows, and the overcrowding was holding on to the place of breath and choking people, an old man appeared in two cloaks whose eyes were covered, and he had taken in his shoulders, on his shoulders, something like a horse bag, and he had taken a guide for himself, an old woman who was like a goblin, and then he stood like he stopped like the stopping of a one who's about to fall, and he greeted like the greeting of one who speaks with a soft voice. And when he finished from his dua, he circled his 5 fingers in his container, and he brought out from there some old pieces of paper which were written with various colors of dyes in leisure time. Then he gave them to the uh, old Makkar woman, and he told her to search for every simpleton, and whenever she feels the moisture of his both hands, she should throw a paper in front of him. So taqdeer, which is disliked and scolded, allotted to me one chitti, one paper, in which the following poetry was written. We'll read the poetry tomorrow, inshallah. Subhanallah, bihamdi, subhanakallahumma, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.